Underway, let's bring in 2024 presidential candidate Chris Christie. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Sure.
You were obviously listening to that. What did you take away from what you heard from the two world leaders there?
Well, not much. I mean, look, what's going to happen in public is going to be, I think, significantly different, or at least I hope, than what's going to happen behind closed doors. They're going to do their initial first statements that are mostly courteous and pretty empty of any specifics. And then hopefully when they get behind closed doors, they're going to be able to talk about the things that really should be discussed. And I hope that the president brings up the role that China is playing to foment violence around the world. And that's what they're doing by funding the Russians in their war against Ukraine, all of them working together to support Hamas. These are things that I hope the president brings up and asks President Xi to account himself for.
So, Governor, we understand that there's maybe 2 or 3 deliverables. There is an agreement to renew military-to-military contacts, which, of course, is important. Potential deal on AI when it comes to certain technologies and nuclear weapons. And then, as well, a deal on fentanyl. Can we trust that China is really going to live up to whatever terms of the deal there might be? Because it's the prime supplier of fentanyl precursors to Mexico. The cross-border business in fentanyl is huge, as we know, and it's kind of in China's interest to keep the cycle of addiction going in this country.
Well, the answer is no. We can't trust them, but as Ronald Reagan said back in his day, trust but verify. And so, okay, I'd rather have us talking and having a deal with China, and now we have to have stringent ways to verify whether they're actually keeping up. And frankly, given our intelligence capability, we should be able to verify whether China's keeping up or not. And if there's not, there needs to be real ramifications for China, because what they're doing is another method of waging war against us, John. They're sending this stuff which they know is going to come over the United States. Last year killed 110,000 of our citizens. This is war against the U.S. That's done through an intermediary in Mexico in the drug cartels. So I'm okay with speaking to them and with coming to agreements. But we have to use our intelligence capability to verify that they're keeping up with their partner.
All right,
deal.
well, everything we're talking about makes the upcoming election even more and more important as our tensions with China and beyond continue to rise. This was from last hour. John spoke with Ronna McDaniel about the Republican infighting, and he asked her about this as you just this morning took shots at some of your Republican colleagues and other candidates. Listen.
Republicans are really sick of this infighting. We just saw it with the speaker's race. They are so sick of us hitting each other and not focusing on the issues and taking on the Democrats, because that's a losing strategy if we're hitting each other.
Do you worry that that infighting will eventually damage your party?
No, it's called a primary. And so, it's the way it goes. I mean, we're going to be critical of each other, and we should be. But what unites us is much greater than what divides us. And if we get an appropriate nominee for president, I'm sure that you'll see Republicans unite to defeat Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. But let's face it, we didn't have any primary in 2020 because we had an incumbent president. But there was still plenty of infighting going on Capitol Hill and in other places. So, look, that's part of politics. I don't mind arguing with folks as long as we're arguing towards an end that'll be productive for the party and for the country. And certainly what I did today over at the Hudson Institute and done in other places is to raise substantive issues where there are differences of opinion. And then the voters are going to get to decide who they want to represent the party.
Just following on Sanders' point, the email that we got from your campaign accused the other candidates. One of them is sitting governor, former governor, and former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, and then a businessman from Ohio, as being not serious candidates. How can you say that they're not serious?
Well, I'm not saying they're not serious. We're saying their statements are not serious. When you say, that we're going to shoot them stone cold dead at the border, the fact is that most people know that that's not what's going to happen. And remember, Ron DeSantis has also said he's going to build the wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. Have we heard that one before, John? And are we going to be fooled a second time by people who give TV tough guy talk, but in the end don't deliver? And so that's what we're talking about. There are no more serious times that we've been in this country in decades. With the war in Ukraine, with the attack on Israel, we need people who are going to talk about this stuff in a serious way, and make promises that can be kept based both upon what they're saying and their history.
The Real Clear Politics average, most recently, Governor, does show the former President Donald Trump at 58.1%, DeSantis at 14.8%, Haley 9.1%, Ramaswamy 4.9%, Scott 2.6%, Christie 2.5%. So based on all of that, obviously, noting Senator Scott out, what do you do now? What's your strategy?
Well, geez, I guess from that I should just drop out. You know, I mean, the Real Clear Politics average is not worth anything. We don't have a national primary. And if you look at what's going on in New Hampshire, I'm in double digits, as is Ambassador Haley, and Donald Trump is well below 50% in those places. And so, look, we don't have a national primary. I don't know why you guys continue to put up the Real Clear Politics average of national polls.
Okay, so where do you think you are?
I don't care where I am in national polling. It doesn't matter. We don't have a national primary, Sandra. If we had a national primary, I would be in desperate, horrible straits. But we don't. We have primaries state by state. In Iowa right now, I'm at 6% in Iowa. By the way, I haven't spent 1 hour in Iowa since the beginning of this campaign. 8 years ago, I got 2%. So, you know, the fact is that this is going to be run state by state. I am solidly in every poll in either second or third place in New Hampshire, in both instances ahead of Governor DeSantis, in some instances ahead of Governor Haley, some I'm behind her. But the fact is, here's the problem, Sandra. This is all a play for second place if you don't go after Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And Nikki Haley said the other night, he's the right president for the right time. Well, I don't know that somebody who got indicted 4 times based upon their conduct in office turns out to have been the right president for the right time. And, you know, I look at the way they cuddle up to Donald Trump. Well, good. If you're content with second place, then don't take on the front runner. I've been taking on the front runner from the beginning because I want to win this race.
All right, so let me come down and let's drill down on a state-by-state basis and go a little further in depth on New Hampshire, because that is a bright spot for you. You are in third place behind Trump and Haley. 8.3% is the RCP average, but that's 38 points behind Trump.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's the White Mountains of New Hampshire. You've got a very tall one to climb.
Well, you do. And there's no doubt, John, but the only way to climb it is to go after it and climb the mountain. The only way to do it is to get there, be on the ground. I'll be in New Hampshire again tomorrow, and to take on Donald Trump. You know, and Governor Haley's, you know, probably 35 points behind Donald Trump. The fact
29.7.
All right, so okay. So the point, but let me tell you this: I got a better chance.
It's a rounding error.
I got a better chance of catching him than she does when she won't take him on. I mean, you know, the fact is you can't have it both ways.
I know you reached
you can't have it both ways.
I know you reached the donor threshold. You announced that yesterday. Have you qualified for the 4th debate?
Yes, we are qualified for the 4th debate.
All right.
We will be there in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And once again, I fear, we'll be the only ones telling the truth about Donald Trump. And look, just remember something, Sandra. Super Tuesday, the day before he's going on trial, the #1 witness against him is going to be Mark Meadows, not some rogue Democratic prosecutor or some product of the two-tiered system of justice. This is going to be his former chief of staff, who he called the next James Baker, who's going to look at a jury and say that Donald Trump knew he was lying on election night when he said the election was stolen. They had told him it wasn't, and did everything he could and directed them to commit illegal acts in order to try to block the certification of the election and overturn it. If he's convicted, which he will be based upon that testimony, is there going to be anything else discussed from late April to November other than the fact that Donald Trump is a convicted federal felon? We're going to lose this election to Joe Biden if we nominate him, and we got to get smart about it now.
No question. There are a lot of variables out there that they haven't been in previous elections, but I do remember one very prominent variable in the fall of 2016, and he managed to overcome that and still win. Governor, great to see you. Thank you for coming in.
John, good to see you, too.
Appreciate it.
And by the way, John, happy birthday.
Oh, well, thank you. Did you bring a cupcake, too?
No. Oh. No cupcakes for you today, John. Just my love, John.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.